Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Alice. Excellent overview, obviously, of not absolutely everything that EBIS can do, but I think that's a good overview of what the supply management tools, sort of functionality gives. So what we're now going to do is pass over to James Coulthard from Great Places Housing Group. And James is just going to talk briefly about how they've implemented, some of that functionality, the benefits that they've gained from it, but also I believe he's going to touch on how Escone have supported them in being able to then maintain and manage that moving forward within the system. So, James, over to you.
Thank you, Vince. So before we had EBIS, we had quite a manual new supplier process or supply modification process. It was very paper-based, lots of handoffs between different teams. So our accounts payable officers would manually start by filling in the supplier details on a form, either electronically or really old-fashioned, completely paper-based, and we'd pass that backwards and forwards between our procurement team, between our business contacts before we got completed, and finally return to the accounts payable team, where they would enter the details into the supplier maintenance screen on open accounts. And there's obviously quite a lot of risk in that process in terms of forms getting lost, people filling in the details incorrectly, any risk of fraud arising there from collusion with suppliers. So we knew we had to do something, and it was flagged by our auditors that we needed to look at it. So we moved over to EBIS, and that's when we started engaging with Escone, and we were able to workflow this process in EBIS in a really similar way to what Alice has just shown you. To be honest, it's almost a carbon copy of our form. It's allowed us to collect quite a lot more data on suppliers than we used to, because we were manually calling people up and getting details from them or emailing them across. The EBIS form allowed us to specify what fields of data we required, so we can ensure that we've got all the insurance policies and things we need. We can get them to attach documents, so we know it just reduces some of the risk that we have in terms of knowing that all our suppliers are correctly insured and they've got all the proper documentation that we need. It puts some of the onus back onto the suppliers for providing that information as well. And even in terms of things like their bank details and contact addresses and stuff, you're relying on a supplier to enter those themselves. So it means that the accounts payable officers in your team aren't going to be responsible for erroneously entering the wrong number on a bank account and sending the money to someone and getting chased to say where's my money for the work that we've done for you. It has, as Alice mentioned, it's given us that segregation of duties that we needed. So no one in our finance team now has access to the supply maintenance screen, apart from our finance systems team for support purposes. But no operational finance colleagues have access to that. So no one is able to go in and amend details, amend bank details, amend addresses, amend contacts. That's all controlled directly through EBIS, and no one can do it directly in open accounts at all anymore. So we have all of our new suppliers and all of our supplier modifications all go through EBIS now. Took us a while to get there. I think the little bits like the copy function that Alice referred to has been really useful for us in terms of it helps us to align our purchase ledger. We've got about 5 or 6 main companies set up on open accounts, and we found that we had purchase ledgers with various suppliers on. Some would have the same supplier twice, but with different bank details in each company that we held, or different address in each company that we held. We did an exercise to clean all those up, and now everything is controlled through there. We update them all at the same time through EBIS, and it gives us a lot more confidence in that data that we're holding. Escone have been, once we have the supplier form, we have continued to work on it. So we didn't have the copy to company function at first. That's something we've recently added. But Escone have been really good in terms of if we do need to make a little change to the form, if we want to change the wording on something, if we just want to add in one new question, they've provided us the documentation and training that we need to be able to go in and make those adjustments ourselves, whether it to be to the new supplier form or to any of our other forms really that we worked with them on. If it's something a little bit more complicated, so if we're amending like a HTML form, or when we did add in the copy to company functionality, now I've just spotted a little resend button on the form that Alice displayed there, which I thought looked quite good, which we don't have yet. But anything more complicated like that, we go back to Escone, and they'll help us build those into the form, and they'll build it into our test environment, send us out some testing scripts, allow us to go through and test all those changes, and then before we push them out into live, which we usually do out of hours. So overall, it's took the item of a risk off our audit reports, and we're a lot more confident in the supplier data that we hold, and our finance directors are a lot happier with the controls we've got around the accounts payable process. So yeah, it's been a really quite easy and quite quick win for us to implement. So we've been really happy with it.